I'm Luke. When I was a kid, my parents got divorced, and I lived with just my mom. She had a chronic illness, making it hard for her to work full-time. She only worked part-time for a few hours. We didn't receive any child support from my dad, so we relied solely on my mom's income. Life had its hardships, but I felt happy because I was with my mom. Though meals were often sparse for a growing guy like me, the time I shared with my mom was precious. Meal times were always filled with smiles. Considering my mom's condition, I thought about finding a job as soon as I finished middle school. When the time to attend high school was approaching, and my mom asked me about it, I responded, "I won't go to high school. I'll work instead." My mom rarely raised her voice, but she did that time.
Please, at least finish high school. Don't worry about the money.
She said, tears streaming down her face. Seeing her like that, I wavered for a moment, but I said, "Mom, I'm not the brightest, but I feel I can be of more use working. You've done so much for me all these years. Now I want to do my part." Tears welled up in her eyes as she said,
It's because of my condition.
"It's not that. I genuinely want to work out of my own will. It's not because of your health. Please don't cry. Let's have our usual cheerful mealtime." As I turned to the kitchen, I heard her whisper,
Thank you. I'm so proud of you.
holding back my tears. As expected, my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Nicholas, also opposed my decision to work after middle school. He told me,
Your mother would be heartbroken.
but I responded, "I've talked it over with my mom, and she understands." My determination was so firm that even Mr. Nicholas gave in. However, honestly, finding a job straight after middle school was challenging. Most companies were looking for college graduates, and I couldn't even get to the interview stage. That's when Mr. Nicholas said,
I have a friend who owns a company, and they're looking to hire salespeople. They've mentioned that they're open to interviewing even those who've only finished high school, as long as they're motivated.
Before he could finish, I immediately responded, "I'll do it. Please arrange the interview." Soon after, I put on a slightly oversized suit and headed to the introduced company with my mom. Seeing how nervous I was, the HR representative smiled and said,
Don't be so tense. Mr. Nicholas told us about your personality and background. You're very ambitious and not one to get discouraged easily. We'd love for you to work with us.
They decided to hire me on the spot. As we talked more, I learned that hiring high school graduates wasn't uncommon for them. Still, Mr. Nicholas's strong recommendation over several weeks had piqued their interest. They also said they hoped I'd bring a fresh perspective to the company. My mom, who was listening beside me, shed tears of gratitude and expressed her thanks multiple times. Standing up, I said, "I'll give it my all. I appreciate any guidance and advice." I bowed deeply. The HR representative responded,
We're looking forward to working with you. Let's do our best together.
and we shook hands. When I called Mr. Nicholas to share the news of my successful job interview, I could tell from his voice that he was choked up. I was deeply moved and felt a warmth in my eyes. On graduation day, Mr. Nicholas said,
It might be inappropriate to do this for just one student, but hang in there and always push forward.
as he handed me a blue tie and a silver tie clip. Wearing that gift on my first day of work, as I walked through the company entrance, I felt the support of my teacher and walked with confidence. Time flew, and before I knew it, I'd been with the company for 5 years. On my first day, I had 0 sales experience. I hadn't even worked a part-time job before. I made many mistakes and got a lot of scoldings from my seniors, but thanks to that, I gradually grew. Although my sales numbers were average, I became skilled at training new recruits. My boss appreciated that talent, and I increasingly found myself appointed as the trainer for newcomers. In the spring of my 6th year with the company, the CEO handed over the business reins to his daughter. The CEO was still of working age, but he believed,
My methods and ways of thinking are becoming outdated. It's time for the new generation to lead.
so he passed on the CEO position to his daughter earlier than most might have expected. After stepping down, the former CEO, along with his wife, moved to the United States to enjoy their retirement. I heard from acquaintances that they were living a relaxed and enjoyable life. Then Miss Olivia the daughter of the former president, took over as the new CEO. After graduating from university, she had dramatically increased the sales results at a regional branch of the company her father managed, earning her a high reputation. Miss Olivia's management style was efficient, and she aimed to provide high-quality services, leveraging her own sales experience. Since Miss Olivia became CEO, she seemed to have taken an interest in me, probably because I was the youngest in the company. From time to time, she would strike up a conversation and eventually suggested,
Why don't we exchange contact information just in case?
After that, I began to receive messages from her almost daily. Most of them revolved around work and little snippets from daily life. One day, I received a message from her saying,
From the first time I met you, I felt something special. Would you be interested in dating me?
That marked the beginning of our relationship. At first, I felt the pressure of dating the CEO and was wary of the gazes from other employees. But over time, I was drawn more and more into her beauty and charm. Olivia was always serious and professional at work, but when she was with me, she became affectionate, almost like a kitten. This duality of her personality was incredibly attractive to me. I felt a certain pride in the fact that she only showed her true self in front of me. Our relationship remained a secret within the company, and our dates mostly took place at my apartment or out of state. Those moments with her felt very special, and apart from my mother, I felt for the first time that I deeply loved someone. However, after dating Olivia for several months, she suddenly started ignoring me. I was completely shunned at work. One day, I witnessed her angrily questioning my boss, saying,
Why did we hire a high school dropout?
Thinking back, her change in attitude began after she met my mother at her insistence. I wondered if she was thinking about marriage and if she felt pressured about it, but it was her strong desire to meet my mother. During dinner at a restaurant near my family home, the atmosphere was initially cheerful and lively. However, when my mother mentioned,
Lucas actually started working right after graduating from junior high school to support me.
Olivia's demeanor shifted dramatically. On our way home, she hardly spoke. Normally, she would say,
I want to spend more time with you.
and choose to stay at my place. But that night, all she said was,
Let's go home.
when I offered, Are you okay? I can ride you home. She responded with a simple,
I'm fine.
and promptly left. It was evident that Olivia was shocked to learn that I began working immediately after junior high school. From that point, she became distant. Every day, she came to the sales department, meticulously checking our work. Whenever I was around, she would make snide comments, saying,
The atmosphere turned sour with the junior high school graduate around.
Within a week of this change, she summoned me to her office. She questioned,
Why are your sales numbers lower than the others?
as I tried to explain, I've been focusing on training the new hires. She cut me off.
Someone with only a junior high education can't possibly train new hires. If you have time to do meaningless things, focus on your own work. Only once you're competent at your job can you train new hires. Got it? By next month, you need to hit this quota.
Olivia said. I was left speechless as I looked at the document she handed me. It listed a sales target that even the top salesperson had never achieved before. Even a month is impossible, I responded.
If you have time to train the new hires, then surely you can achieve this.
Olivia retorted with a smug grin. That evening, my spirit felt completely broken. My colleagues tried to console me, and a senior manager who was aware of the situation promised to discuss the matter with Olivia. But, drained of all motivation, I submitted my resignation to Olivia the next day. She remarked,
Just as I thought, this is all a junior high school graduate is capable of.
and I had to hold back tears as I left her office. As I was packing up my things to leave the company, my boss called me aside. He repeatedly apologized, saying,
I'm sorry I couldn't do more for you.
and then he shared something. He couldn't stand by Olivia's treatment towards me or the fact that she drove me to resign. So he confronted her, seeking to understand why she was so fixated on my background. After hearing Olivia's story, the reason behind her treatment of me became clear. It wasn't simply about my educational background. It was a wound from her past that had never truly healed. When confronted with my own educational background, it must have triggered her memories of betrayal and heartbreak. Having had a prestigious educational journey herself, Olivia probably held high standards for her partners. To have been deeply hurt by the only person she had considered marrying, who lacked the typical academic accolades she valued, it might have been a hit to her pride, leading her to distrust people with similar backgrounds in the future. In hearing this, I felt a mixture of sympathy and frustration. It was evident that her past relationship had left deep scars. Still, it was unfair of her to let the shadow of one individual cloud her judgment of an entire group of people based on their educational background. I was not her past lover. I was an individual with my own experiences and strengths. Her prejudice, rooted in past heartbreak, was both sad and alarming. One individual's actions should not have determined her view of many. While I felt for her pain, it was essential for her to learn not to let past traumas dictate her present actions and judgments. A year had passed since then, and I had switched to a new company through a friend's recommendation. Every significant transition, whether it was leaving my job or securing a new one, I would report to Nicholas, who was my junior school teacher. When I decided to quit my job, he comforted me over the phone. But beneath his encouraging words, I could sense an unmistakable sadness. However, when I landed the new job, he was genuinely thrilled and gifted me a navy blue tie to celebrate this new chapter in my life. In truth, I hadn't been upfront with my mother. I had lied, telling her that I received a headhunting offer. She might have been the only one who knew I wasn't telling the truth. Yet, she didn't question me. Instead, on my first day at the new job, she prepared secondhand red rice, a traditional Japanese dish often made for celebrations, and packed it for my lunch. In reality, my friend had introduced me to 3 companies. All of them were promising, assuring that my academic background, having only finished junior school, wouldn't be a problem. Among all the offers, the words of CEO Mason touched me the most. I had arranged to meet him at a cafe along with my friend for the interview. To ensure we arrived before the appointed time, my friend and I met up at the nearest station and headed to the cafe to get coffee. The scheduled time to meet CEO Mason arrived, but even after waiting for 5 minutes, there was no sign of him. My friend, who seemed to know him quite well, commented,
He's usually punctual. I wonder if something happened.
Just as he was about to call him, an older man hurriedly approached our table, wiping sweat from his brow and apologizing.
I'm so sorry. I'm late.
My friend recognized him immediately and exclaimed,
CEO Mason, we were starting to get worried. It's rare for you to be late.
Mason replied,
I truly apologize. I ran into some trouble on the way here. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself properly. I'm Mason.
He then handed over his business card. Looking at him, I had a nagging feeling that I had seen him somewhere before. I tried to retrace my memories. Earlier, while I was walking to the cafe with my friend, engrossed in our conversation, my friend's phone rang. As he spoke, I walked on, pondering what kind of person the CEO might be. Then, my gaze landed on an older man and an elderly woman at a nearby police box. The man locked eyes with the elderly woman, while a police officer appeared to be on the phone. Moments later, someone who seemed to be a relative of the elderly woman rushed to the scene, repeatedly bowing in gratitude to the older man. I wondered if the elderly lady had gotten lost and the man had helped her. At the time, I hadn't given it much thought and simply walked past the scene. By any chance, were you near that police car earlier? I asked. He replied, looking a bit sheepish.
Yes, I was. An elderly woman was lost and couldn't find her way home. Even though I knew I was running late for our meeting, I couldn't just walk by. I'm sorry.
Seeing him speak with a hint of embarrassment, I got a glimpse of the CEO's character. As our conversation went on, I felt more and more that I wanted to work under him. As our meeting neared its end, I expressed with passion, I would be honored to work under you, CEO Mason. To which, Mason laughed like a child and replied,
You beat me to it. I was about to offer you a position. Please, we need someone with your talent on our team.
And with that, he promised me a job on the spot. Having had prior experience in sales, I was able to excel quickly in my new role. Then, one day during a break, I opened my phone to see multiple missed calls from the same number. The phone rang again. Answering with a hint of nervousness, it turned out to be Olivia. I had deleted Olivia's number when I left my previous job. so I hadn't recognized it.
It's been a while. How have you been? I was waiting for you to call, but since you didn't, I decided to reach out.
Olivia continued, her tone suggesting hopes of a renewed relationship.
Stop being stubborn. I'm not mad anymore. Won't you come back?
Feeling a chill run down my spine, I replied, actually, I've moved to a new company, so, but Olivia cut me off.
Wait a minute. You loved our company, right? I told you I'm not mad anymore. Stop being stubborn and come back.
She seemed determined not to hang up until I said, all right, I'll come back. As the afternoon work hours approached, I desperately tried to end the call, but the more frantic I became, the more she clung on. At that moment, my new boss, CEO Mason, stood behind me, saying,
Mind if I take over?
he started talking to Olivia. After a brief conversation, CEO Mason firmly set Olivia straight.
It seems you're confusing whether you want him back as a romantic partner or as a business associate.
CEO Mason remarked. He then continued,
It must be tough for you, Olivia. It seems he was a significant loss for you, both as a lover and a business associate. As for us, we wouldn't want to lose such a talented individual.
Shortly after, the call seemed to end. After hanging up, CEO Mason smiled and said,
There was an unusual tension in the air. I couldn't just stand by. I hope you don't mind that I intervened. If she bothers you with another call, let me know.
Saying that, he handed over his smartphone. Overwhelmed by his kindness, tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you. I expressed his gratitude. With a smile, CEO Mason said,
Protecting valuable employees is also my responsibility. Now, chin up. How about this drink?
What he handed over was a strawberry-flavored milk drink. Perhaps he had intended to buy coffee, but mistakenly chose this instead. Seeing his slightly embarrassed face, we both burst into laughter. According to stories I later heard from my former colleagues, Olivia was cutting corners in nurturing talents, focusing solely on improving performance. As a result, many newcomers quit in quick succession. Personally too, she seemed in a rush to get married and appeared to have been relying on me to support her in both business and romance. However, after being directly turned down by CEO Mason, she abandoned her plans. Olivia's company soon went bankrupt, and she was saddled with a mountain of debt. Everyone expected the former CEO would bail out his own daughter, but news about my situation and her attitude at the company reached his ears. It seemed he decided not to condone her misconduct and made her bear full responsibility. You can't chase two rabbits at the same time. Seeing the outcome of the approach Olivia took, I felt there was an element of her reaping what she sowed. Still, if it weren't for my encounter with her, I might never have met CEO Mason. Under his leadership, I was able to grow professionally. While I don't wish to meet her again, I do hope she turns over a new leaf and finds a new path in life. I aspire to be like CEO Mason, keeping others in mind, helping those in need, and building a team where no one has to go through the hardships I did while continuing to contribute to this company.